Now, if you did not watch part 1, go ahead and watch it. You can watch it after or before this video. They're not really related at all. You can watch it in any order you want. I'll put the link to part 1 in the description below. So in part 1 we looked at Arsenal, Aston Villa, Bournemouth, Brighton, Brentford, Chelsea's, Crystal Palace, Fulham, Everton and Ipswich. All of their tactics we explained. I told you how they defended and attacked in very, very simple, basic terms. In part 2, we are now going to look at Manchester City, Man United, Liverpool, Leicester, Spurs, Newcastle, Nottingham Forest, Southampton, Wolves and West Ham. So, we're going to look at all of those teams in this video. The timestamps will be in place, so if you want to jump to your team, then feel free to do so. But I wanted to say a big, big thank you to all of the love and support you guys have shown on that last video. You loved part 1. Hopefully you're going to like part 2 as well. And yeah, if you want to see more of these sort of tactics breakdown videos, then please do let me know in the comments below and leave a like. But of course, disclaimer, I'm not some tactical genius. I'm not Pep Guardiola. I've done a lot of research to try and figure out how teams have played, but of course, take everything I say with a grain of salt. This is just for, entertainment and relaxation purposes. So yeah, hope you guys do enjoy. And yeah, let's get into it. So we're beginning with Leicester, and Leicester is actually one of the hardest I've found in this entire series, I guess, to pinpoint exactly the way they play, because of course they're under a new manager, Steve Cooper. They've got a different style completely to Enzo Maresca, and as of right now, there's some key characteristics I've seen from them, but there's nothing clearly standing out in terms of how they play. Of course, it's early days, so in terms of that key characteristics, I really want to focus on their defensive play, because defensively, that is one of the main focuses of the Steve Cooper Leicester side, and that was one of the main focuses of Steve Cooper in the Premier League with Nottingham Forest. So originally, I think a lot of people thought he might have used a back 5 system. I've just realised I've completely forgot to put, there we go, that's about 5 is meant to be in there. There we go. But yeah, originally at Forest he used a back 5 system at points. People thought he might do it at Leicester. He has gone for a back 4 system. He used a 4-2-3-1 formation. And he did use this at Forest as well. And he's used the same blueprint in terms of they sit back quite a bit. Leicester don't necessarily go all out pressing when teams have the ball. They're going to allow you to have the ball, but they allow you to do that because they know that on counter-attacks they can be deadly. They have the players capable of, being dangerous on counter-attacks. So they'll sit back. They're going to allow teams to progress up the pitch. They'll sit in a bit of a low block system. But what they do is they're very narrow. Very, very narrow. This is something which you learn from Nottingham Forest, where originally they were, a bit more expansive and teams were just playing through them so easily. Now, very, very narrow. Nothing goes through the middle. Nothing goes through the middle. That's also why he's picked Wilfred Ndidi in this sort of number 10 role, because he essentially just drops in like this, and then they go to like a 4-5-1 formation, and these guys will go very narrow, meaning that it's just so compact. As you can see here, let's say a team is trying to attack like this, and let's say they invert the fullback like that. Sure, they have a back 3. So a team is attacking like this. As you can see, this guy, Vardy will sit just like that. Look at this. Just absolutely packed out in the middle of the park. There's no way a team is going to be able to play those balls through the middle. The only way you're going to get through this Leicester side is to go out wide. And will see in this video a lot of clubs do that, a lot of the lower down clubs do that because they know if you go in these wide positions, your only option is really to cross the ball, and Leicester will back themselves with that via scalp, Manson sweeping. They can deal with those crosses. So much rather you do that than play through them through the middle, get the ball into these areas here, because in the Premier League these guys in these areas can really hurt you. So Leicester absolutely pack out that middle of the pitch, and they're very narrow, and that allows them, when teams do try play through the middle, they win that ball back, and then this is where Leicester will be dangerous, and they've scored quite a few goals already on the counter attack because they have the players to hurt you. Jamie Vardy, we all know, he's 39. He's not a spring chicken anymore, but he in his prime was one of the best of doing this. Where he'll have this space, peel off them, and run in behind an opposition. While he still maybe doesn't have the pace anymore, he is still fast enough and still has the movement and intelligence to do this, and that's why Vardy's already started scoring some goals in the Premier League under Cooper. Because when teams commit like this, they lose the ball trying to play through the middle of the park. Vardy, as I said, his movement is brilliant. He'll get in behind there, and a wings will play that ball over the top for a Vardy to get onto, or an Abdul Fatahu, really, really fast, really good dribbler. They'll either give the ball to his feet, he can drive with the ball up the pitch and get them up the pitch, or hold the ball and he'll try and run in behind. Jordan Ayew as well. I think one of the reasons they've signed an Ayew is because one, his defensive work rate is really good, but he's also capable of sort of drifting around. Ayew is very good at playing on the counter attack because he likes to come into these areas here, the central areas. He'll pick up that ball here and play the ball, or try with the ball, play the ball in for a Vardy, maybe making that run, or if Adar will make this run, he'll make that run, or Steffi Mavadidi, whoever's playing. So Leicester really trying to hit you on that counter attack. They're really good at it, and that's why you've seen Jamie Vardy doing well in the Premier League under Steve Cooper. And also with Ayew, sometimes he plays on the right, Mavadini will go there. If Ayew sort of like inverts here, this allows James Justin, if he wants to go forward a bit more. And I think that is why we've seen James Justin play ahead of Ricardo Pereira in the Premier League so far, because Pereira, we saw last season under Maresca, likes to sort of invert. Justin's a bit more if somebody's going to go wide. So again, they win that ball back, they'll go, and they'll commit those bodies forward. They'll try and hit you on the counter attack. Leicester are very, very quick, very direct, very fast in their build-up play, because they are aware, Steve Cooper is aware, they don't necessarily have the best players in the world to break down these low blocks, so they play fast, they play direct football. It's not Man City-esque football. They do defend deep, but they work hard as a team. They defend narrow, and they try and hit them on counter-attack teams to really, really punish them for overcommitting, and they force those teams out wide. Those are really the key takeaways for Leicester City. So Liverpool have their new manager, Arne Slot, and I'm not gonna talk loads about him and his tactics in this section, because I actually did an entire video dedicated to how Arne Slot plays when he was announced. But what I'm going to talk about specifically with Liverpool is more so their defensive shape, because I think it's really, really interesting and very, very different to what Jurgen Klopp did at Liverpool. And this is one of the key differences, I think, between Slot and Klopp. So when the opposition had to have the ball under Jurgen Klopp, Liverpool are known, right, for their extreme pressing, going very, very high up the pitch, very, very aggressive, pin teams in, and try and win that ball high up the pitch. Now they still do that, they still do press very, very effectively, but now Liverpool under Arne Slot are much more happy to be in that mid-block. So Liverpool are not, at points they do just like this. So it's just like that. It's just like that. It's very, very narrow. Very, very narrow. 4-2-3-1. Now let's see the opposition. No, inverts fullback. Like this. They're playing with a back three when they build up. Like this. Like that. And like that. That's probably how a typical Premier League side sets up. Now what they do is, the wingers, as I said, are very narrow. They essentially join the number 10 here, and it will be a three-man press, or a three-man midfield here. So Diego Jota, or whoever's that striker, will lead it, and the opposition will play it, and then they pick their moments extremely, extremely well. Jota, when he sees the moment, when he sees the trigger, ball gets played into it, dodgy touch, Jota goes, and then as soon as he goes, everyone goes, and they close down like that in packs. Now that's the advantage of going so narrow when they defend Liverpool, because as soon as they want to press, they have so many bodies in there, and as you can see, for the opposition are really, they can't play the ball through the middle. There's no way they can really get the ball to this double pivot here, because how are you meant to get the ball out there? The only way they can, if they go in there, as I said, they got 1, 2, 3 people, close them down, so you can't go through the middle. You can't get the ball to these two because these are marked by McAllister and Gravenberg. So how are you gonna get past them? Well, you're gonna go out wide, aren't you? Because these guys are gonna have time on the ball, space on the ball, because they're so narrow. But what Liverpool do so well is they want you to go wide. They force you to go wide on purpose. They want you to play out wide, and the reason for that is because obviously in the middle, when it's so congested like this, I mean, firstly, look how many players here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Liverpool players in the centre. What happens if you go wide? Well, firstly, they have Van Dijk and Canade, so if you're going out wide, you're going to try to cross the ball in, they're going to get rid of that. But secondly, once they go out wide, and they'll allow you to start progressing up here, and then as soon as they see the opportunity, once you go out wide, that's when they go. And that's one thing that has stayed from Jurgen Klopp, where when they press like hounds, and they go in bunches. You'll never ever see really Liverpool when they play. For example, here you're not just going to see Salah press like that and all these guys stay in their position. Not going to happen. That's something that was drilled in from Jurgen Klopp, and it's something that Arne Slot has retained. So they force you out wide. You'll play the ball. You go out wide, and as soon as you go out wide, they're into you, and they press in their freeze. You'll also see as well at points Trent Alexander-Arnold. Let's say a team wants to play through the middle, and this guy drops in like this. Trent Alexander-Arnold will a lot of the time drop in just like this, so it essentially forms a free like that. It'll form a free 1 when we defend, just like that. And again, same thing. As soon as the ball gets played out wide, they hound you down, and in the middle, literally nothing goes through the middle. When Liverpool are defending in their mid block like this, you're not going to see anything go through the middle. It's almost impossible for a team to go through the middle, and if they try, they're going to concede goals. It's exactly what happened with Manchester United. Both goals, ball gets played into Casemiro here, try to go through the middle, hounded out, 1, 2, 3, trying to close him down. He tries to play the ball out wide to his fullback, who's got space, but you can't play that ball because there's so many people around you. And you sort of, again, against Man United, a similar thing where ball gets played out wide to a Dalot, and then they close him down, win that ball back, and Liverpool on counter-attacks, when they wing that ball back, are so effective. But yeah, that's really what I wanted to talk about with Liverpool in terms of their defensive shape. If you want to see how I talk about how they attack, then go watch that video I made about Slot and Liverpool a while back. But that's really the main takeaways for Liverpool, how they extremely narrow, nothing through the middle. They'll allow you to build up, and as soon as they see a trigger, as soon as you play the ball out wide, as soon as you try and play the ball through the middle, they'll hound you down. They'll go in threes, go in punches, and press you extremely, extremely well. Manchester City then. So of course, the champions, everyone knows, have a basic understanding of how Pep plays, of course, but what I really want to talk about is how they've sort of evolved, because they've sort of actually gone back to a tactic they used to use in around 2017-ish, and it's involving the two wingers. So back in the day, they used to have Sterling and Sane, who were very fast, very direct, love to take on their man, love to play very, very wide. And that's really what City have gone back to. Previous seasons, couple years, they've been, sort of inverting wingers, very sort of technical wingers who, like a Grealish who gets the ball, stays out wide and then just recycles the ball. Now, Man City are playing a slightly different way. So let me show you how. So when City have the ball, this is usually what happens. So the wingers, as I said, will be extremely, extremely wide. Savio and Doku on both wings. If they're playing now, bear in mind with Man City, this team, which I picked, is very, very fluid. They change their lineup quite a bit, but this is the lineup which I think showcases the tactic the best, which I'm talking about. So Doku and Savio will really, really hold the width. So as we've sort of discussed with other tactics, this is very effective because it makes the fullbacks have a decision. Do you go out and mark these guys, but then if you do that, you leave the space in there, or do you leave them, but if you leave them with Savio and Doku, they're so good at dribbling, so good at, you give them a ball, allow them to run at you, they're gonna absolutely do you, they're gonna rinse you, quite frankly, both of them. So it's a real predicament for fullbacks in this position. And what they do effectively with Silva and De Bruyne is when the fullback goes out like this, the people who occupy this is the midfielders, the two number 10 Silva and De Bruyne, but also the fullbacks. Now, let me push these guys up a bit like this. What happens is, now I picked Rico Lewis here because, as I said again, Carl Walker's here, it's slightly different, but Lewis will attack this space and go forward like that, and Lewis will go into these positions. Silva will be here. Same thing down here. Josko Gvardiol will attack into that space created by the wingers. Or if the fullbacks don't do it, what will happen is Bernardo Silva will go there, Kevin De Bruyne will go there, and then Gvardiol will go there, Rico Lewis will go there. And now suddenly, as you can see, you've got 3 players on the wide areas, and this is now going to have to mean a centre back's going to have to drag out there, a winger or a midfielder's going to have to drag out there. He's going to have to go like this, but now suddenly, okay, wait, I've got Erling Haaland to deal with. What do I do? Do I stay? Haaland's there. You're going to have to drop in now then, so you can go there and I can go there, and it's just so hard for them defences to deal with, right? Because they've got those overloads, and you've seen quite a bit this season. Man City have scored goals on a cutback from wide, cutting it back for an Erling Haaland or somebody there, because they get into these positions. Where they have 3v2s, 3v1s on the wide areas. They can beat their guys and play very well, and the fullbacks are extremely effective because, the midfielders De Bruyne and Silva are really good because they're comfortable in going like that, running into the space, running forward, but they're also extremely good, as we know, on the ball, and they're very comfortable dropping deep, just like this, when a team is pinned back, and when they drop deep, it allows Rico Lewis to bomb forward like so. Josko Gvardiol, again, he can go there if he wants to. Most of the time it's a little bit more conservative to form a back three just like this. Gvardiol, Diaz and Stones Rodri drops in there in his number 6 role. De Bruyne and Silva just drop in there. These guys there like that. And as I said, their passing range is so good, so one of them will drop in. De Bruyne will drop in, form a double pivot there with Rodri, and then allow Bernardo Silva to attack this area like so. And as I said, De Bruyne's passing range is so good, he can play a ball. When the fullback's going tight, he can clip the ball over just from deep for Silva to run into. Silva can do it as well on the other side. Or if the fullbacks stay, like I mentioned, easy ball out there, follow your pass so ball gets played. De Bruyne will play the ball out to Dogu. De Bruyne will follow the pass, and now suddenly look, you've got a 1, 2, 3 versus 2 scenario. So it's very, very, very important, the wingers Dogu and Savio, that they are very fast, very direct, very wide, and yeah, that's something which I really wanted to highlight about Man City. And another thing as well is defensively, when they press, they have such a reliance on a Rodri, because when they press teams, let me give the ball to these guys, they'll go into a sort of 4-1-4-1 formation, so they have their back four just like this. Rodri will be there, De Bruyne and Silva will push extremely high onto the double pivot, so say a team is like this, put in there, just like that, say a team is building up just like this. Savio and Dogu are also, again, because of they're very fast, they're very good at pressing. You've seen quite a few times this season, for example, against Ipswich, Savio win the ball through pressing and get some goals through that. So these guys, as I said, essentially form a 4-1-4-1. Silva and De Bruyne occupy the double pivot, the two midfielders, and they press extremely high. Silva is so good at pressing himself, so Silva as well, when they see the opportunity, will join Haaland up like this, and they step very well. And of course it's risky doing this because you're leaving Rodri all on his own like this, but this is where Rodri is so important and so good, because they're very comfortable in trusting Rodri in this scenario, where if a team does manage to bypass this press, which is very hard because you've got 5 players essentially pressing you, so it's very unlikely you're going to get out of that. But if a team manages to, Rodri's reading of the game is so good, he will get in front of that. Or if the ball does get played into that person, Rodri will intercept them, will tackle them, and then if he does that, suddenly now you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players for a counter attack. So yeah, that's something I really wanted to highlight about Man City. Key takeaways there are that the wingers Dogu and Savio are so fast, so direct, so wide, so that they can cause problems to the opposition, and it is very similar to the Sane Sterling days back in 2017, and Pep has sort of evolved back towards that tactic. Alright, so this is going to be short and sweet. So Manchester United's tactics. Okay, yeah, so it's just pure vibes. Let's move on to the next. Okay, now I'm joking. What I'm going to do in this section with Man United is I'm going to show you how to play it, and then I'm going to show you why there are certain problems and why there are, they get caught out at points with the way they play, and some of the real mistakes they make in this style of play. So when they have the ball, Manchester United sort of set up in a 3-3-1-3 formation. So what they'll do is they'll form a back three by one of the midfielders dropping in, just like this. One of the DMs will drop in, and by doing this, this frees up the fullbacks to essentially become wing backs. They go very, very high, just like this. And then this player here, one of the midfielders, will stay in the midfield. Bruno drops a little bit deeper, and then the two wingers will go high, just like that. So as you can see here, you've got a 3-3-1-3 formation, essentially. Now, this has benefits because, of course, you got balance here in terms of your passing options out wide, with your fullbacks, you've got your wingers here, so you can get those 2v1 situations with your wingbacks if you can get the ball to them. You've also got, you know, Bruno in this position here, who can drop in just like this, and form that Xerxes as well as somebody who likes to drop into these positions, like to drop in there, so you can really get those overloads in those wide areas through this style of play. But you also have quite a few passing options out the back here. But this is where the problems come in, because I'm not sure if you can see it, but the midfield is very, very isolated. Not a lot of numbers in the middle of the pitch. Now, of course, it's great you can get those wide overloads, but sometimes if the team blocks off those wide spaces and you can't get the ball to your wingbacks, you know, he tracks him, he comes out here and he tracks. You know what? Where are you meant to go now? You're gonna have to try go for the middle. But the problem is you haven't really got any options through the middle. And this is where some of their problems have come in terms of, for example, the Liverpool game. Everyone knows about that, you know, disaster class Casemiro dropped. Casemiro was in his position, and of course he was rubbish. But Casemiro, in this position, didn't have many options because Liverpool defended very narrow to block those passes to the middle of the third. They sort of defended like this, and essentially from this position, the only option he had was to play it that way to a wing back, or play it that way to a wing back. And Casemiro's passing range is just simply not that good, and he was unable to do it. He could not play this ball through the middle of a park. He would try and make that ball, gets cut out, and then obviously we all know Liverpool scored from those goals. So that's one of the problems. Now Agate, I'm assuming is going to come into this and he'll probably play that role, but Agate will probably have similar problems if they continue playing like this, because Agate is not amazing at, you know, ball progression, those long balls, etc. So this is why, of course, last season you saw people talking about that gaping hole in the midfield. This is why, because one of the midfields drops, and they don't invert a fullback or anything. So Mainu is pretty much always just left on his own. Poor kid, always left on his own in there. You know, sometimes a Bruno will drop in there and trying to help out, but you know, Bruno is somebody who, you know, he'll get deep and try and get on the ball, but he's not somebody who will just dictate play from there. He's somebody who will like to get on those advanced areas, play those long balls like that. So he doesn't, you know, that's not really his game there. So that's one of the problems. Now defensively, when they don't have a ball, they have actually changed their system. They used to do a man marking system, but they have improved. They have improved in this. They now go 4-4-2, with Bruno pushing up with a striker, just like that. And you know, this is a popular method of defending. It's very, very good, and they don't do a man marking system, as I mentioned before. Previously, they'll do a man marking system when they were pressing, and they would just get undone super easily, because with man marking you gotta be on it, and you have to be well drilled. Everyone needs to know their roles and win their battles, and they weren't doing that. They didn't really know how to do it effectively. So I will say they are better now defensively like this, but yeah, that's really Manchester United. The key takeaway is one of the midfielders will drop in to make a back three. The fullbacks go very, very high, very, very wide to offer those options going forward. But that does mean they are a bit isolated in the midfield, which can cause some problems. But that is Eric Ten Hag's Man United tactics. The Newcastle are up next here, and Newcastle set up in a 4-3-3 formation, but it's very fluid. So when they have the ball in build-up play, it's very interesting kind of what they do. So they'll go to a back three system, which is kind of why you see a Dan Burn or a Lloyd Kelly at left back. Of course, their team is one of those where it does fluctuate, but this is the tactic I've chosen to explain. So they go into a back three system, and this allows Livramento to push on. Livramento will push on just like that. It essentially becomes a sort of 3-4-3-ish. So what happens throughout the presses them. And then the wingers are extremely high and wide, but Gordon does like to drop in just like that as well, because he is very good technically. So this means when a team is pressing up, let's say they press like this, push these guys up, like so. What this means is when the team presses up high, they have options all over the place, so they can play so many options, because they've got 3 here and they've got 4 really in the midfield in front. So once the ball goes to the back 3, Dan Burn in this position, sure he might have 2 players closing him down, but he can play into the double pivot, he can play into a Joel Linton who's holding width just like this. This guy's gonna have to screen, this guy's gonna have to go there, Bruno can drop in, Bruno's great at getting the ball there, or he can go straight into a Gordon who, as I said, is deeper. So essentially he has 1, 2, 3 options out here. They have 4 players, as you can see, 4 players there on that side, and it's the same thing on the other side as well. Ball gets played to Botman. He's got Longstaff here, he can play to. He's got Livermento out wide. He's got the long option of going to an Almiron as well if he wants to. He's going there, or an Almiron might drop into that position. And again, this position you got 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 players, 3 options for the guy passing the ball. And then, you know, if you want to go for the centre, again, you've got a double pivot providing a solid base. You can play to these 2. These guys might get marked. Okay, that's fine. So you can allow then a Gordon to drop into that position. And Fabian Schär is really, really good passing range. So Fabian Schär can hit a ball to a Joel Linton, who maybe might make that run there, spray it long. They're not afraid to go long at points. Newcastle. Or again, same thing here. Livermento gets very high and wide. He can spray that ball like that if there's no option, or go straight into the feet of Isaac, who likes to drop deep. He has very good technical play, hold up play, can link up, play onto a Gordon, play onto an Almiron, just like that. So yeah, they have all the time so many options through this method of play that Newcastle, when they build up from the back, obviously sometimes they do get caught out, but a lot of the time Newcastle are quite safe in possession and won't really get caught out too much by a team's press. Defensively as well, they're very, very good. Newcastle are sort of known for their pressing system. Their press is one of the best in the league, and the reason for that is because they do a man marking system. So they'll employ man marking press, and it's just with the thing with man marking pressing is it's so aggressive, and if you can do it well, it's so effective. It's so effective. We see teams like Brentford doing it, and very, very effective at it. So in this position here, they'll go for something just like this, man mark, like that, push up, like this, and let's see, he drops in there, he'll drop in there, and they go man mark just like this. Really, really try and squeeze the opposition. They like to press very high up the pitch in their man marking system, and because they are so good at it, so aggressive, is something they've worked on very well. Newcastle are one of the best teams in the league when it comes to winning the ball up high up the pitch, because balls get played into here, closed down, and yeah, they get a lot of goals through that as well. Now they also, what I really admire about Newcastle is they press high like that, but they're also not afraid to sit back, and when they sit back, they're very hard to beat, because they essentially become in a they have sort of variations. They can do a 4-5-1, so they'll sit off just like this. Joel Linton joins the midfield like this. If they're really, up against a big side, that's typically what they do. They really pack out the midfield like this, sit off in a 4-5-1, and it's just so compact, so hard for a team to break down, like this. 4-5-1 like that. You'll also see at points a Joel Linton or a Gordon push up and form a 4-4-2, just like that. Very fluid, as I said, very, very fluid. But also what you'll see at points points as well as a back five. And this is where Joel Linton, he is one of the glues to this side. And when he's not in this team, you see their performances dip because he will actually at points they'll go into a back three system. So Dan Burn will shuffle across like that, form the back three, and Joel Linton will go into a sort of wing back role with Livramento, just like this if necessary. And then they'll go just like this, like that, a 5-4-1 formation. Again, this is when a team is trying to maybe do an overload out wide, but Joel Linton's not afraid to go into this position, help out defensively. His defensive work rate is really, really good, and they're just so compact in this area with this four in front. Newcastle are very hard to break down going through the middle, so you might have to go out wide. And if you go out wide with players like Burns, Cher, Botman, Lloyd Kelly, Nick Pope, they'll eat those crosses up easily. So Newcastle, very, very good team in terms of pressing. They press very high, but they also are not afraid to sit back, defend deep, get into their shape, be compact, and when they build up play, they have lots of options through the build up. So a really, really interesting tactic there from Newcastle. So Nottingham Forest. Forest have had a really good start to this season, and they are, in my opinion, one of the best counter-attacking and pragmatic sides in the league. Under Nuno, very well drilled side, but they're not this sort of park the bus, hit them on the counter with speed type team. Of course they do at some points, but when they have the ball, they're actually very attacking, and they actually attack with numbers and are very aggressive. So what they do is both of their fullbacks, Moreno and Olaena, they love to get forward. They go very, very high. They go very, very wide, like so. What happens is Forest really want to focus on those wide overloads. Hudson-Odoi and Alanga, because the wingers are, fullbacks are going so high, allows them to sit a little bit narrower. They can sit in this position here. Gibbs White in this team also has a very important role. He's very sort of like got a free role in the side, and this is where the wide overloads come from. Now, defensively, they'll have the double pivot, who are a bit more conservative because, of course, you've got all of these guys here going forward. So you need your double pivot to stay back, especially Sankara. Sankara will stay back. Elliot Anderson, or whoever's playing in that role, can join the attack at points, but usually what they do is they pair a Sankara with someone like an Anderson or a Dominguez who has a good passing range where they can sit in this deeper role and spray passes out like that and like that from the deeper position whilst giving them a solid base at the back. Also, with this double pivot, it does allow for Murillo at points, who we all know is a fantastic dribbler of the ball. He's really good at carrying the ball forward. It does allow him at points. If you switch like this, he can go on a run. Sankara will just drop in like this, and Murillo will go into this role where he can dribble forward or play passes like that, So it's very fluid, and that double pivot is very important to the side. But as I said, they focus on getting those wide overloads because they have the 2v1 situations here out wide. But then they also, as I said, Gibbs White has a free role in this side. He will go into these positions and sort of go out wide, help out. He'll drift off to the left, form these triangles between Moreno, Hudson-Odoi and himself, or he'll do the same thing out wide here, go here, form the triangles, so they can get those overloads, get into those positions there where they can cross the ball in, because of course they've got one of the best target mans in the league in Chris Wood, so you want overloads out wide so that you can get in those crossing positions and get Chris Wood on the end of those crosses. Another big factor in terms of creating chances for them is defensively. I mentioned they're one of the best counter-attacking sides in the league and very pragmatic side. So they do sit a bit deeper. They do tend to sit a bit deeper, and they do put numbers behind the ball. Now they defend in quite a few different options. They do defend sometimes in just a straight 4-2-3-1 formation, also defend in a 4-5-1 at points. These guys will drop in Gibbs White, will drop into the midfield and help these boys out. Or Gibbs White will also, if they're trying to press a bit more, push up alongside Chris Wood and go into a 4-4-2 formation. And what they really do is they try and stay compact, they try and stay really narrow and force those teams to go out wide. Because of course, Forest are quite a big side, you know, like Milenkovic can deal with those crosses into the box pretty easily, so they try and force teams out wide. But also, this is where I was talking about with the counter-attacks. This is why they score so many goals from counter-attacks, because Murillo and Sangare in particular, they love to jump, they love to push forward. So let's say this team is attacking, they're attacking like this, like that. Sure. He has a ball, he's there. What they'll do, let's say they're defending a 4-5-1. Murillo and Sangare are not afraid in this position. When they see an opportunity to go, they'll go and they'll press him. And Murillo will back it. Murillo will often actually get dragged out into these areas where ball comes into a number 9 maybe or a number 10 who's dropping it. Murillo will go there. And he's so good at winning that ball back. Same with Sangare, that by being aggressive, what that allows is they can win this ball up in a decent position. And then with their two wingers, Hudson-Odoi and Elanga, they're so fast, they're so direct, they're such good dribblers. These guys go, he goes, get the ball to a Gibbs White or an Anderson, who have such amazing passing and dribbling ability that these guys are capable of playing that ball over a top to a Hudson-Odoi, playing a ball over top to Elanga, or even they just go straight into a Chris Wood. You can hold out that play, drag in a couple guys like that, play off Gibbs White, little 1-2 there, Anderson can go, and you know the fullbacks will also join in when they see a counter attacking opportunity, and they'll just be so aggressive, try and get these, you know, positions here where they can get overloads. See, suddenly here, you know, you've got like a 3v1, 3v2 situation. So that's why Forest are so good on the counter attacks and score so many goals through that. And I think that's also why they cause so many problems now for some of the big sides. They've beaten the likes of Liverpool away because of these counter-attacking situations. They're not afraid to put bodies forward, commit bodies forward when they have to. And yeah, that's one of the key takeaways really from this Forest side. They'll sit deep, sure, and they'll defend very narrow, they'll defend very compact. But when they see an opportunity to bounce, when they see an opportunity to attack, they'll do it, and then they'll commit numbers, they'll commit their fullbacks. They'll try and work the ball out wide, get those overloads and get those balls in for Chris Wood. So that's Nuno's Forest tactics explained. So with Southampton, obviously under Russell Martin, they haven't had an amazing start to life in the Premier League. But what I really want to highlight, of course everyone talks about, you know, them playing out from the back. They can't play the way they play in the Premier League. And so what I really want to focus on is, I'll show you a bit of what they do in the possession, but I want to focus on defensively, what they do, because I actually think defensively the way they play is actually something that can work in the Premier League. Now going forward, maybe a different question, and you know, the way they play out from the back, etc. But I actually think defensively the way they play is pretty suited to the Premier League. Now, in terms of going forward, just briefly, one of the key men in this side is Adam Armstrong. His role is super interesting because he's played so many positions for Southampton. He's played right wing, he's played centre mid, he's played striker as well. He plays all over the place, and the reason for that is because he is so good on the ball. Now he's technically more of a striker than a winger, which means that he likes to occupy these sorts of area there and go alongside the striker when they attack, or drop into like a number 10 role. And what this allows is Walker Peters to bomb forward. Walker Peters, of course, is a very good very good fullback, and he likes to go forward, so Walker Peters becomes a winger essentially, and Adam Armstrong usually likes to drift into these areas here and sort of play just off the striker in this area. you'll actually see as well at points Armstrong completely just become another midfielder, and Will Smallbone will push on like that and occupy this area here. And you know, this sort of movement like this is just so hard. These three, Armstrong, Smallbone, Walker Peters, very, very fluid. It'll be like that at points as well. Sometimes Armstrong drags out here, Walker Peters make a run there. So these three just cause so many problems because, you know, they have three players usually, and they at all times on the wide areas get those little triangles formed. Same thing on the left hand side with Manning there as well. And yeah, that's how they get a lot of their goals, through combination play down this side, and then, you know, got it back for the striker to score. But as I said, I really want to focus on defensively because I think it's super interesting what they do. And it's something which, if you watched part 1, they do something actually very similar to Fulham and the way they defend. So, in terms of the way they defend, it's really focused on being very narrow, and nothing through the middle. Nothing through the middle, really. So, these guys, the three midfielders, will be extremely narrow. These guys will also sit in just like this. So it'll be very, very narrow. Very, very narrow. And they really want to force teams to go out wide. Now the reason they want to force teams to go out wide is because that's essentially the trigger. So let's say goalkeeper has the ball. Southampton will, a lot of the time, allow you to make that first pass out. They'll allow you to pass out to the centre back. But what they want you to do is they want you to stretch the pitch and go like this. They want you to try and play out from the back and go out wide. As I said, very, very narrow through the middle. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players in that centre of the pitch. There's just no way you're going to play through them. So you're going to have to play around. So as soon as this ball gets played out wide, that's the trigger. And this is where they do something very similar to, as I said, Fulham. If you watch the other video, you'll remember that Fulham, what they do is when the ball goes out wide, they squeeze the pitch, they squeeze it. So everyone shuffles over like this, and they just make it so hard for you to play out, really, because once the pitch is squeezed like this, the only person who really stays as the opposition is the fullback. And once the pitch is squeezed like this, suddenly, you know, this player, like, what option do you have? You know, everyone is marked. The pitch is so small. You've got 1, 2, 3 players closing you down. All of these guys have just made the pitch so much smaller for you. So the only option you really have to do is turn back and play it back. And then that's when, as soon as it's played back, that's when they go. Ball gets played, and then boom, the high press begins, and they push up. He'll even push up there as well, and they go, and they try and force the opposition to go long. So that's really sort of the style of pressing they do, and the same thing on the other side. You know, they'll let you play it out this way, and then as soon as it gets played out there, close him down. Everyone shuffles over, shuffle. Everyone moves over to just squeeze that pitch out. And again, if you watched the Fulham video, or the Fulham part, you'll remember that one of the benefits of this is because most teams in the Premier League, you know, most players are not capable in this scenario to ping a ball like that and get this guy into space, right? They're just not able to do so. But Fulham do get undone against some of the bigger sides when an opposition player does have the capability of pinging it here, and they can get undone very easily, because they commit so many players on one hand side of the pitch. That is something which I think we might see from Southampton a couple times this season, where they do this, and then they get caught out, or once that ball gets played back and they press extremely aggressively, extremely high, you know, playing against a good opposition, if he can undo that press, get that ball there quickly, move it quickly, suddenly, in this scenario, if they're pressing very high, you're undone, and now you're backpedaling on your goal. But if you can effectively do it, as we've seen with Fulham, you can be pretty successful in the Premier League doing So yeah, that's really what I wanted to talk about with Southampton. Their pressing is extremely high, but they won't press you straight away. They'll make sure you play nothing through the middle, and as soon as you play it out wide, they squeeze the pitch, and as soon as you play it back, then they press you extremely high, extremely aggressively, and try and win that ball back as much as they can. So Spurs are up next, and Spurs under Ange. Very interesting setup. What they have, they play some really nice football at points, which I feel like Spurs' tactics are well covered in terms of how they play, and people always talk about the high line and stuff like that, but what I'm going to show you is mainly I'm going to focus on their attacking and why their strategy is so high risk and high reward, and why they do sometimes get caught out, but why they score a lot of goals through the way they play. So in terms of build-up play, so let's have a ball here. So when Vicario has the ball, they usually set up in a 2, but then what they do, very interesting with the fullbacks, not many teams usually do this now. As you've seen throughout this video so far, teams do the inverted fullback, but usually they only invert one fullback, one of them stays, and then they just shuffle across to a back three like that, right? It'll look something like that. What Spurs do is very interesting, because they do invert fullbacks, but they don't just invert one, they invert both. So both the right back and the left back will join the midfield. So essentially it forms, let me get my pen out, it forms a 2 and a 3-2-3. That's essentially how a Spurs set up with the ball, which is really interesting. Another reason they do this is because by inverting both fullbacks, obviously it means they can't play. They're pretty exposed out wide, right? They're pretty exposed. So what they do is they put the wingers extremely wide. Right winger, left winger will hold the width for them. But doing this, having 3 in the midfield, allow these 2 midfielders to essentially be freed up and play as number 10s. They can really push on like this, and you'll often see them going into these positions, occupying that space to help if they're getting pressed. You know, they can play out in those areas, or they can come in there and sort of drag out the midfield of the opposition. Now this is why we never really saw it last season, but Ange started to do it this season. He's playing both Maddison and Kulusevski in the midfield, because usually, you know, we go for a bend and go a bit more conservative when they defend. Now he's realised, okay, when I've got these 3 in this, like so, if we lose the ball up the pitch, it's perfectly fine, because I've got 1, 2, 3 players, and then I've got 2 behind them. So it essentially gives Maddison a free roll, and I'll give this player here, Kulusevski, a free roll as well to attack. And once they bypass the press, they also, so these guys will go very wide, as I said, they will stay wide. Solanke will also be tasked to drop in at points to help up with build-up play, help up with that link-up. But these number 10s essentially just join up like this, and it really becomes extremely aggressive. Oops, let me go like this. So it'll actually become a 2-3-5 pretty much. It'll be something like this when they have the ball and they're in the opposition's half. Like this, you have a 2, you have a 3, and then you have essentially 5, as I said. So as you can see, it's extremely attacking and extremely aggressive. And the number 10s also make this even more attacking by they don't just occupy these areas and they're not fullbacks, who just, you know, invert, like you'll see, and maybe just provide the base, just simple passes here, and then that's it. No, the fullbacks will actually swap with the number 10s in many positions. So you'll see, because these guys have such a free roam, you'll see at points they'll tuck in there, the fullback will go there, they'll tuck in there, the fullback will go there, and the fullback has lots of license to roam forward, bomb forward in this system. And this is why Destiny Udogie and Pedro Porro boast some of the best attacking numbers for fullbacks. Porro especially gets a lot of shots away because he gets into these advanced positions here, and in terms of attacking, it's just such a nightmare for a defence, isn't it? Because if you're defending like this, firstly the back four, I've got 5 players here to think about, so you can't even go man for man. You've got to drop in a player here. One of these guys has to drop in, so you're already forcing them into essentially a back 5 at this point. They're gonna have to go like this. These wingers are gonna have to trap the fullbacks like so, and you're essentially now just pinned in the defence here to a 5-back. A 5-4-1 is pretty much what they're gonna have to set up in if they want to combat how you're playing. And that's why you'll see Spurs' possession numbers so high. That's why you see them pin in teams and dominate the ball, because of this style of play. It's very hard for teams to get out of this. And as I said, when they do these movements where Porro, Romero have a ball, Kulusevski drops in, it's just a nightmare, because if the defence is not switched on, this guy doesn't track him, or he goes, they don't swap man, then suddenly Porro makes this run in there into that space, or even Johnson comes from out wide, makes that run inside. Solanke, same thing, will do a similar thing of, he'll drop into this position, show for the ball, allow a Maddison to get in there, allow a Kulusevski to peel off in there, and it's just extremely fluid. Now, this is also probably where you can see the problem in terms of how it's high risk, high reward, because they invert both fullbacks, and as I said, sometimes the fullbacks get into these positions here. Sometimes they get left exposed, because another key aspect of this is when they lose a ball, let's say they lose a ball here, they have to press extremely effectively and extremely aggressively, because if they do not press in this position, they've only got 2 players left at the back. They've got 3 here, sure, but a team can try and hit a long ball and try and get in behind that, and there's so much space for the opposition to attack him. So that's why the press is extremely important, because when they lose the ball in this position, they have to close down extremely quick, and because they've got so many players forward, it's very hard. But if a team can break that press, which we've seen a couple times, for example in the Newcastle game, if a press isn't correct from the Spurs players, suddenly ball gets played into here, maybe he spills off, Maddison doesn't track that, suddenly you're left exposed in 2v2 situations. But this is where Romero and Van de Ven are so crucial, because Romero is so aggressive that if a ball is here in a 2v2, he'll jump out and most of the time he'll win that ball back. And also Van de Ven is also just absolutely rapid, where if the opposition does try a long ball to exploit that space into a channel, Van de Ven will easily mop that up with his pace. So yeah, of course, as I said, if this press doesn't go right, if Van de Ven and Romero don't time their stuff right, they do get caught out. But they also score a lot of goals because of how attacking they are, because the fullbacks go so high, because that allows those number 10s to be freed up. So yeah, that's the Spurs tactics. Key takeaways are both the left back and the right back join the midfield when they have the ball like that, and that allows the 2 midfielders, Kulusevski and Maddison, to have a free roam and push extremely high up. And Spurs will play in a very, very aggressive style, very attacking style. It can cause some problems if they don't get their press correct, and teams can counter them very easily. But a lot of the time, Spurs will win that ball back and score a lot of goals by the way they play. West Ham have a new manager, of course, Julian Lopetegui, which means they have a new style of play, and the way they play I think is very unique, very, very interesting. I don't really see too many teams use some of the methods has sort of experimented with the lineup, with the tactics, but this is just one of the tactics I've seen him use this season, which I'm going to explain. So they line up in a 4-2-3-1 formation on paper. However, it goes very, very different. It goes into a bit more of like a 3-1-2-4 type of formation when they have the ball. So Antonio will be there. The fullbacks go very high and wide. They'll push up into these positions here, essentially becoming the wingers. Mavropanos will stay back, so will Max Gilman. But what happens, the centre backs split and they form a back three by one of the DMs. I've just put Guido Rodriguez in this instance. Drops in, it could be Edson Alvarez as well. He'll drop in and they'll form a back three system just like this. Now, what they do here is, because of course the fullbacks are very high and wide, this allows the two wingers, Bowen and Goodos, to invert, and they actually stay extremely narrow. They're essentially two number 10s, really. And of course this means now that Paquetá does not need to be a number 10. Now, Thomas Soucek, when he plays, of course Soucek is very good in the sort of penalty area when he is getting headers, getting on the end of balls into the box. He's very good at those late runs into the box. But he's not really someone you want in this area here to build up play. He's not amazing on the ball. So what they do is, Soucek, kind of becomes like a front two pretty much. He basically joins these guys just like that. And it essentially kind of looks something like this. Just like that. And then Lucas Paquetá is somebody who you want in these positions to dictate play, to play the ball, and to really get on the ball in these deeper areas, because he can create. He is capable of making balls on his own, clipping a ball over the top to an Emerson to make a run there, or he's capable of, a Goodos coming in this area, Paquetá bringing it into him. He's very capable of doing that, or even getting the ball and driving with that ball up the pitch. So yeah, that's how they usually set up. By also dropping into a back three system, this allows Max Gilman to really advance. Max Gilman is a really good dribbler of the ball, so he likes to really progress the ball up the pitch. With a back three, he's capable of doing this, and we've seen, for example, in the Crystal Palace game, Gilman making a run into this area. He has a good passing range, able to pick out a Bowen in this area, and then Bowen goes ahead and scores. So that's another reason they do this. Also with Goodos and Bowen, particularly Goodos. Goodos is, he's somebody who can play out wide, but he also likes to operate in these areas here. He likes to play in those number 10 roles, so by having him narrow, he can get involved into play. And, it's that classic thing which we talked about a lot, with the wingers going in narrow. Fullbacks now have decisions to make. It keeps them guessing. Do you go ahead and follow and leave all this space for Emerson to attack? Or do you leave him like that, mark this guy, but then you leave him exposed in the midfield there? Because then the midfielder can have to pick these up and you're sort of in no man's land. You're not really marking anyone. You're going to have to get dragged out there. It's just such a pain for them to deal with. So yeah, that's one of the ways they can play. There is a little slight alternative. What they do, they'll always keep the back three system, but instead of Rodriguez dropping in there, if they want a bit more control on the ball, because of course with this system, you don't have too many bodies in this area here of the pitch. Of course, a Bowen drops in, Goodos drops in, Soucek does as well at points, but you don't have too many bodies. So if they want sometimes West Ham a bit more control, what they do is Guido Rodriguez will form a double pivot there with Paquetá, and what they'll do is Emerson will just stay back and form a back three just like this, and then to provide the width, Mohamed Kudus will go out wide and Thomas Soucek will just drop in there, and there you go. Now you're a lot more sort of stable. If you're against a team where you want a bit more control in the middle of the park, you've got a double pivot here of Paquetá and Guido Rodriguez. You've got the box midfield here now with Soucek and Bowen there, but you also, what you benefit from is having Mohamed Kudus again, the same thing, causes problems. Fullback can go out there, Thomas Oja can run in there, or fullback stays, and then Kudos, as I said, is a great dribbler, so he can run at you, cut inside and shoot. So that's really how West Ham play with the ball. Without the ball, it's also very fluid. It does not stay as a 4-2-3-1. It goes sort of like a 4-1-4-1 formation. So the back four stay the same, just like a back four, just like that. The DM will sit, but then they'll employ quite a high press, and they'll use Begedar. Sojek will push up, Kudos will be there, and they'll press sort of like this. Now, of course, this guy is going to be closer to these guys, and with this, of course, you've got a line of four that the opposition has to break down, which is extremely hard for the opposition to break. So when they're sitting off in this shape, the opposition, it's very hard for you to get into this area. Of course, if you do get in this area, you've only got one person there. But what they also do is, if they want to actually press a team, then Lucas Begedar is very good workhorse. He'll push up into that role there, and then Guido Rodriguez will push up, and they'll go into a 4-4-2, just like that, very simply. And that's what they do when they're sort of pressing teams. Use it. Most teams do a 4-4-2 out of possession to press, because it's just very effective. You got the 2-man there, and you got 4-man here. So yeah, that's really West Ham. Key takeaways there are they're very fluid. They don't really stay in a 4-2-3-1, even though it is a 4-2-3-1 on paper. The wingers will be very narrow, almost inside forwards, allowing the fullbacks to push on high and go very wide. They'll always have a back three, whether that is through one of the DMs dropping in or the left back staying back. And then this Lucas Begedar essentially swaps with Thomas Sojek, so that Begedar can dictate play and Sojek can get on the end of balls. Our final team we're going to talk about here is Wolves. Wolverhampton Wanderers. Now, I've really identified three characteristics of Wolves in terms of how they play under Gary O'Neill, and I'm going to talk through each one. That is flexibility, balance, and verticality. So, as I thought through a tactic, you'll see exactly what I mean. Firstly, I should mention that here's the first one with flexibility. The formation with Wolves is very flexible. Now, I've chosen the 5-2-3 because that is primarily last season under O'Neill what they did use, but they also used a 5-3-2 at points. They are now also transitioning to a back four system where they go 4-3-3, sometimes like a 4-1-1 sort of thing. But just for simplicity, the tactic which they used last season, I'm going to talk through, and that's the 5-back, the 5-2-3 formation. Now, where this formation is so good, and the reason I think they used it is because of the flexibility it offers them with and without possession. So defensively, Wolves could have many variations in terms of how they set up. So they would stay in their 5-back formation at points if they were trying to defend deep against those bigger sides. They'll go for a 5, the wing back would drop in, they would drop in, one of the forwards and go to a 5-3-2 at points, or even go for like a 5-4-1 like that. But a lot of the time what you'll actually see them do is go to somewhat of a 4-4-2 formation. So what would happen is essentially Nuri, the left wing back, would push up into a left mid role, and Totti is actually, he's a bit of a centre back / left back guy. He's like a hybrid. So he would slot into left back. Semedo shuffles over. They got a 4 on the back here, and then one of the forwardsmen would drop in. Was it Gunya there, for example? And I'll just go into a 4-4-2 very easily. Very comfortable at doing that. And what you've got here as well this video, defensively, you know, their right mid and left mid are going to be wingers who are not good defensively. Here, with the benefit of using a wing back to do the 4-4-2 is you've got Aitner, who is a defender, and you've got a Dotti on the left back role who's also an out and out defender, meaning that out wide you've got two really good defenders there, and you're just a lot more solid defensively. And defensively they're very aggressive Wolves. They rank last season some of the highest numbers in the league when it came to winning the ball back, because they are, you know, they don't sit back in a low block, it's more of a mid block, and then what they do so effectively is win that ball back quickly when they see an opportunity, and they pounce on the counter-attacks. They are lethal. Wolves are one of the best counter-attacking sides in the league, in my opinion. And the reason for this is the athleticism in this Wolves side, and that's also one of the reasons they win the ball back so much, because of the athleticism. You see, let's say a team is, you know, committing players forward, Wolves are defending in this sort of formation, just like this, a 4-4-2. Push these guys up like that, get the winger up, there we go. Yeah, let's say team, where's the ball, there we go. Team got the ball, they're playing like this, Wolves will be compact, and when they see the moments, they're gonna be aggressive. Lamina will press, Gomez will press, these guys are very aggressive. Mosquera, Dawson, Semedo, very good defensive players. Once they get the ball, as I said, the athleticism, they pounce, they are quick, and verticality, that is something which I mentioned earlier. Getting balls forward passes, that's what they want. Then, you know, Wolves can do the possession sort of style, and when they do that, usually Tommy Doyle's in the side because he is a very good passer of the ball. But mainly, they focus on, once you get the ball back in these situations, how can we get the ball forward? And they do that very well, because once a Gomez or Lamina wins it, these two in particular are really good dribblers of the ball. So they will carry that ball up the pitch, and they commit bodies forward. You know, Cunha will go forward, Hichan will go forward, Larson will go forward, Neto, when he was in the side, would also go forward. Aitner as well. I mean, he is pretty much like a winger. He is so good going forward. So good going forward. So he'll bomb forward as well. As I said, Lamina and Gomez, sometimes both of them, usually one of them will go forward. So typically on counter-attacks they'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players. They're not afraid to bomb forward with these guys. And you've got Gomez with the dribbling, you've got Lamina, who's a great dribbler, but particularly Matthias Cunha. Matthias Cunha is very comfortable in these situations here. They win the ball back like this. His hold-up play is superb. They'll win the ball back, they'll play the ball into a Cunha, and he can turn with a defender on him. His dribbling is amazing. He can turn, spin off him, and he can play those balls into an 8-0. He's going to be bombed forward. Or a Hichan or a Larson who's going to be spinning and going into those channels as well. And you've even seen it, even though they're playing a back four, this season they've scored a lot of goals through those counter-attacks again. I think it was a Newcastle game, win the ball back, Gomez drives forwards with the ball, sprays the ball out wide to, I can't remember who it was, out wide. That was Larson, wasn't it? Larson's out wide in this area here. It's the other side of the pitch, but it doesn't matter. In this area here, Lamina is bombing forward, Joao Gomez is bombing forward. These two, bearing in mind, are the two, like, they're the two number 8s. They're the two number 8s, and they're in like these positions here for the goal, and then cut back and Lamina scores. Just shows how aggressive, vertical they are. They're not afraid as soon as they get the ball to play forward. And in possession as well, even though it is a back 5, typically they actually go into more of like a 4-3-3 formation, where it'll be something like this. So have their front 3 just like that. Let's put these guys in position, put him there, just put them in a 4-3-3 like this, this. So it's kind of like this. As you can see, a 4-3-3 formation. And as well as talking about flexibility, it can also, you know, Aitner can bomb forward into these positions. Cunha, as I said, very good on the ball. He likes to drop deep in these positions. He can swap into this role, like so. And yeah, just extremely flexible. A lot of balance to the side as well. You'll never really see Wolves. They do commit when they go forward, but they will always make sure they've got, you know, their back four in place to snuff out anything. They'll make sure they've got numbers in the midfield, make sure they've got numbers in attack, and yeah, really flexible, very aggressive defensively, Wolves. And when they get that ball, they are not afraid to play that ball quick, play that ball fast, play it forward, and commit bodies forward to score some goals. Okay then, so there we go. We have finished explaining every Premier League club's tactics. It's taken a while. This video was long. Last video was quite long as well, but nevertheless, I really do hope you guys have enjoyed both of these videos. It took a very long time to make both of these videos, so I would appreciate if you would leave a like on this video. That will massively help me out. As I said at the start of the video, if you want to see more of these sort of tactical breakdowns, then please do leave a like. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you in another video.